Hello, hello, and welcome back to Don't Be a Basic Biscuit. Today we have a special guest and a special topic that I think is incredibly important. We're going to be talking about public speaking. So we have public speaking coach Allison Harmon. She works at and is the founder of UTAP Today. And you could go to utaptoday.com to learn more about her business. You could also find her on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at UTAP Today. So today what we're going to do is talk about public speaking, one of the biggest fears of everyone in the world. And so I actually worked with Allison in the past when I first started getting into speaking engagements. And she helped me big time on one of my first talks and making sure that I didn't use filler words, maybe getting over fear and kind of prepared for that speech the proper way. So, Allison, why don't you give us a little information about yourself?
Yes. So, and I actually remember that call very well. And congratulations on completing that panel and many other panels after that. So, hello everyone. My name is Allison Harmon, and I'm the owner of Uplifted Talent and Productions, where I help people in public speaking and acting skills, but overall self-expression. So, I help people with public speaking when it comes to working in a group, when it comes to working individually, as well as when it comes to working in your career and in your craft. So, of course, being able to speak in public is very important, is a skill, and it takes practice. It takes practice to work on this skill, to build the skill, the confidence that you need to stand in front of a group and to share information with the crowd. So, I always try to tell people you want to make sure that you focus on your message, the focal point of what you want to share with your audience. So, that'll take away some of that nervousness and boost a little bit more of the confidence. So I've been studying public speaking for a very long time. I graduated from William Patterson University with a bachelor's in communications, and I love it. This is what I absolutely do. It's what I love, and I've been in business now for 8 years, going on 9 years in August, and I have quite a few people that I've helped out with public speaking and who I've seen huge success.
No, that's wonderful. Actually, I remember it was my friend that connected us, and he works in government relations and works with a lot of political partners within New Jersey. And I remember going to him and be like, "Oh God, I have this speech. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to prepare." He's like, "All right, call Allison Harmon. You will have everything solved." So,
Mhm.
Allison, I say let's jump right in with the biggest thing when people talk about public speaking is their fear of public speaking, the fear
Right.
of talking in front of crowds, and even whether that be few people or hundreds and thousands of people. What do you tell your clients to do to get over that fear?
Okay, so well, the one thing I'll tell you now is that you're not alone. Okay, so there's a lot of people who fear public speaking. According to corporate communication experts, 75% of people suffer from speech anxiety prior to even public speaking. So that's what I mean when I say you're not alone. There's 4 out of 5 people who would choose not to speak in public and do anything else before choosing to speak to a crowd. So I would say the main thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're prepared and that you practice and you know the audience that you're going to speak to. That's the most important. So I remember that call, Harveer, and you said, you know what? I'm not sure of the audience. I'm not sure how many people. I'm not sure what it's going to look like. And that was the first assignment. I said, okay, I
Yeah.
need you to do this, 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 this. And he said, okay, I have some stats now. This is what it's going to look like. This is the people that are going to be on the panel. And then we got a chance to actually work on practicing those skills. And then after that, I saw your Instagram and you've done tons of panels since that. So congratulations.
Well,
But you
you
put in the
started.
work.
You created a monster.
You put in the work though. And that's what I try to tell people. That's why I started the business and I titled it UTAP, right? Uplifted Talent and Productions. And the slogan is you tap into your talent, you tap into your gift.
Oh, I like that.
So
I
you
like
did
that.
the work. You tapped into something that you already have. I'm not giving you anything that you don't already have. I'm helping you build the confidence of that skill. So when it comes to the fear, that's what I want to help you with, boosting the confidence, standing in front of this crowd or speaking on camera, speaking on a podcast, speaking on a panel. There's so many different environments of public speaking. So eye contact is important. Body language is important. Projection, articulation, enunciation. All of these things is what I go over in the UTAP course, and I will be doing a boot camp coming up this summer. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. I mean, so I guess the biggest thing to get over fear is make sure that you're prepared, right? You
mhm,
go in there and understand. Now, people don't realize, and I love that you brought that up, that one of the first things that you're supposed to do is actually do some research on who you're talking to, right?
mhm,
Specifically, who you're talking to and what they want to know
right.
coming to this speech, so that you could actually prepare for that, to ensure that the audience is actually happy with your discussion afterwards. So
Mhm.
I guess preparation is probably what you would suggest as being the number one thing to get over fear. Are there any like smaller tactics that you use, that, like, when you're going up on stage or this or that, is there anything that you tell them to kind of get over those nerves about just getting up there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the nerves are gonna come. The nerves still come for me, right? And they're supposed to because we're human. They're
Yeah.
supposed to come, right? So you're supposed to be nervous because you're human. But the first part of that is, yes, we have to practice. Yes, we have to prepare, but you also have to accept what's happening in the moment. So in that moment, before I go up and speak, I'm telling myself, okay, I'm accepting that I'm nervous. I'm accepting that this is a different audience for me. I'm accepting that this is a new opportunity for me, but I'm still a little nervous, even though I prepared, even though I practice. So you have to accept how you're feeling at the moment. Once you accept that, then you can move into, okay, now how can I change this around? I've already accepted it verbally.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes you may have to do that, go to the bathroom, talk to yourself and just say, okay, I know I'm nervous. I got to pump myself up. It's okay to do those things. And I still do those things up until this day. So when you're preparing and you're standing in front of that group, you're knowing your audience, then you want to focus on who are you talking to? So when it comes to a group of teens, when it comes to a group of kids that you're talking to, are you talking to seniors? Are you talking to government officials? Are
Great
there other
point.
real estate agents, right? Are there people who are well versed in the topic that you're going to be sharing? Or is this
True.
all beginners?
True.
Are they novice, people who come in who don't know anything about the topic, but they are adults, or
Then
they
you
may
gotta
be
add an
seniors,
extra step. You gotta
or
do
they
the
may be
intro.
teens, right? So, like, even with this podcast, right? So if we were gearing this podcast towards teens, right, it would be a little bit different. You'll see a little more animation. It'll be a lot more movement, maybe music in the background, because you want to grab that particular audience. So
Yeah.
when it comes to preparing and having that anxiety before going on stage, it's accepting how you're feeling at the moment, now reversing that energy. You take that energy and you turn it into positive energy. So if your hands are going to shake and if your knees are going to shake, and the index card that you have in your hand, if you're using one, if it's going to shake, then you might as well just use your hand to the optimum level
So you
because it's
don't
already
take it.
shaking
It's
anyway,
already
right?
shaken.
So if it's going to shake, instead of standing there and you're holding the paper or the index card,
Yeah.
and your hands are shaking, you might as well just start using gestures and using it to build on what you're saying, to expand. So you're using your hands so no one can really see the shaking because you're using your body as a part of it. So that's just one little tip when it comes to nervous. Now, there's other things that happen. Some people get dry mouth, watery mouth, you get shaky hands, you get your heart starts beating
Palpitations.
really
Yeah.
fast. There's a lot of things that happen. Sometimes you get blurred vision and you're like, I can't even read the words on the paper, so, and that's when bullet points comes, in hand. But those are some other things that we learn in class.
Yeah, we'll jump into that. So I want to actually jump back. You mentioned using your hands. So body language. What would you say for body language? How important is it? What would you suggest? More movement, less movement, whatever comes natural. What do you think is the most important when it comes to body language in a speech?
Yeah, so when it comes to body language, I think that it's most important to do what feels natural. Okay. So you don't want to stand still the entire time because you want to make sure you're captivating the audience and then you're holding their attention once you captivate them. Okay. So when it comes to body language, I think that moving around on the stage definitely helps. It helps you utilize the entire space and it helps everyone else feel included in a conversation that you're having. Okay, so you want to think of it as a conversation and not just a speech.
Yeah.
The weird part is that you don't hear anyone else saying anything in the audience to respond back to you, but you can get direct feedback by making eye contact and looking at the head nods in the
Yeah,
audience. Or you look at some of the confused faces like, wait, what is
maybe
she
they didn't
saying?
follow. Yeah,
So, right. So that means when it comes to a real estate term or any other terminology, you might have to define that a little bit more because you got a couple confused faces in the audience. So when it comes to utilizing the space and being aware of the room, that's what you want to focus on because you can say, okay, everybody seems to be with me. I have a lot of head nods. I see a lot of smiles, or I kind of see people falling asleep. All right, I need to ask a question. I need
yeah,
to make this interactive. But you
yep.
won't know those things if you're not
Being
using body
aware.
language, using the stage, utilizing the entire room so that you can build that confidence. And one tip that I would give you to help with body language is when you're home and you're practicing that speech, make sure you practice that speech standing up. Don't practice sitting
Great,
down. That's
smart.
the first tip.
Yeah, because then you could look at yourself in a mirror and kind of see what you're doing as well. No, that's
Mhm.
great. So another thing that I think is a hot topic with public speaking, and I did it just before we jumped on. We were talking about what we were going to talk about, and I said, yeah. So we're also going to talk about filler words, and I was like, oh, I just did it. so, so what do you tell your clients? What can people do to reduce filler words? And
Like,
anything else, like literally blah blah
so
blah. So yeah, so there you go. So what do you do to tell your clients how can they reduce filler words?
yes, so filler words is definitely very common. I'm actually working with a client now, and that's a skill that she wants to polish up on is speaking clearly and fluently without having all of those extra filler words in there. So here's a tip I'll give you for filler words. Slow down. Okay. So you want to slow down and you want to think quietly. So when you're using filler words, you're thinking aloud. That's why the and the so, because you're gathering your thoughts, but you're doing it verbally.
Hmm.
You want to gather your thoughts quietly. So that means leaving extra pauses instead of saying the ums and the uhs. And you want to slow down your speech. It's going to sound a little weird, but notice how I'm speaking to you now. I just slowed down my speech because I really want to stress the importance of trying to minimize filler words. So the extra pauses that I'm taking now will actually eliminate me from using the ums and the to think about what I need to say next. So you're thinking quietly.
No, I love that. I remember us actually talking about this
Mhm,
and you telling me the same thing. Slow down and kind of think about the words that you're going to be saying in
mhm.
your head.
Yeah,
And it worked out. I
you
mean,
take practice.
I remember that day. I didn't follow your rules strictly because I started rambling a little bit. I was like, and but no, I remember you telling me that, and
Mhm.
that's incredibly important. So that kind of also helps with nerves and allowing you to kind of do it properly, right?
Wow.
So
See, you
that's
just
good.
did it.
So
You just did it.
I did it. I did slow down, but then I was said like right after it. It's a
Practice.
constant struggle. It's a
It is.
constant
It
struggle.
is.
So okay, so preparation to get over fear.
Mhm.
We talked about filler words. We talked about body language. We talked about prepping before. Now, what would you say day of tips?
Hmm. So day
So
of
what tips
tips.
would you give day of?
Let's see. The number one thing I would say is get there early. Okay.
Okay.
And getting there early on a day of will help with nerves, one. And the reason why is because if you're there early, most of the time you will have a chance to actually interact with some of the people who are going to be sitting in the audience.
Oh,
So you
great.
get a chance to have a conversation with some of those people. You get to find out some common things between you and some of the people in the audience. You might want to add that into the speech or get their permission to add something. I just was having a conversation right before we walked in, and I talked to Megan, and what she shared was with me was, you know, and then that's a way that you could bring down the nerves. That's a
Hmm.
way that you could add something more personalized to the room because now it's not just you speaking to the audience, you have someone else in the room on your side, and
Yeah.
you're sharing a particular conversation, and you may not share what they shared. Just may say what you shared with that person. Okay.
Yeah.
So getting there early is really, really good. And it also helps you with nerves because you're kind of like, oh, I have this person on my side. I
Yep.
have him on my side, so you have different people there. So getting there early is definitely number one. I would also say when you're thinking of the day of, it's very important that you try not to practice the day of.
Okay.
Because if you practice the day of, to me, I feel like you make so many more adjustments, and the
Hmm.
adjustments are usually made because of nerves.
Yeah, and
So if
it's
you
last second,
practice, yeah,
and they start
if you
stumbling.
practice weeks before, days before, the day of, allow your mind to rest. Allow your mind to take in what's actually going to happen that day, to take in the atmosphere, right? So I don't think that you should practice on the day of when you're going up to speak. I think that all of the preparation that you've done prior to will show.
What
Because
about
if you
eating
don't
food?
have it up until the day of, it's kind of like, all right, now I'm going to cram everything in. And it just makes you more nervous
What
on
about
the
what
day
about
of.
eating food? Do you how many hours before? Do you drink water? Don't drink water?
Yeah, I usually don't eat about 2 hours before I go up to speak. Because if I eat 2 hours before, or at least 3 hours before, I give my food enough time to digest. Right. So if I'm
Okay.
going to speak at 3 o'clock, then I probably wouldn't eat after 12:30.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah,
great.
because you
So
don't
that's
want to
good.
you don't want to give a speech on a full stomach. You know how you some people say like you kind of get sleepy and tired
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
after
Yeah.
after eating. Yes, that does affect you, and it'll affect you going on stage. So
Yeah.
the
The
energy and
energy
excitement
levels.
that you had, sometimes it may even, make you feel like you might want to vomit because of the nerves now. So now you have a full stomach and then you're nervous and it's just like, oh, I
Mm,
don't feel good.
yeah.
So, so I would just say drinking water and not too much because you have to go to the
Exactly.
bathroom, so that's something else. Because of the nerves, not because
Yeah.
you have to go, but you'll have to go just because of the nerves. So try not to eat or drink anything. I would say at least 2 hours before.
So what
Yeah.
would be the difference between, like, there you go, like, a large crowd and a small crowd? How would
Ooh.
you prepare between that? Some
Mhm.
people may have, for example, as in real estate, we have seller buyer seminars where it might just be a room of 10 people, or it might be a room of 20 people, versus some of the stuff that I've done where I'm sitting in front of hundreds of people now. So what would you say, is there a difference in preparation between the two things? So let's just say it was a buyer seller seminar and it was a smaller crowd. What would you do in that aspect to prepare that would be different from, let's say, a larger crowd?
Yeah, I would say most of the preparing would be similar. Okay, there's very few differences, and that would come based on the size, like what you just said. So the preparation would still be similar. The difference, I would say, with a larger crowd is that you want to make sure that you're utilizing the room. So when you're used to smaller groups, you have just a small group of people that you need to connect eyes with. But how can you connect eyes with somebody that's sitting on like the 44th row? You know what I mean? Like, how can
Yeah.
you connect with that person that's on the last seat or, depending on how big it is, if it's an arena, in a balcony? How can that person feel like they're sitting on the front row? That's when words like charisma come in hand. That's when questioning come in hand because you want to make those people feel connected to your speech. You want to give them something to do, give them a
Yeah.
question to think about so that they can feel,
Okay.
oh, wow, okay, how can I connect with Harveer when he's up here on the stage? And he's talking about real estate. He's talking about making sales. He's talking about, engaging with families and helping them find a dream home, right? So how can I connect with him? He's all the way up there and I'm all the way in the back. So now I guess all I just have to do is listen and take notes. A lot of that will come with
Yeah.
the verbal usage of your words. Okay. So when it comes to a larger room, you want to think about utilizing your words differently so that it can connect to the person sitting in the last row. You want to
Okay. And then with a smaller room, it's more personal.
Right. With a
Is
smaller
that
room, it's more personal, it's more intimate. You can actually look into the eyes of people, right? So as opposed to it being a big room, you're looking just, I call it A, B, and C in class. And I actually put like A, B, and C on the wall when we're doing this exercise. So there's like an A over here, there's a B all the way back there, and there's a C. And you have to hit all 3 points 3 times throughout the speech. Like that's an activity
okay?
that I do. So and it doesn't have to be in order. It can be at any point of the speech, but you have to look in that direction. That's for a big room.
Okay.
In a smaller room, you can actually look into the eyes of people, which is also something that I do for we call it for acting is mock audition day. And then, okay, so for public speaking, I call it the recital. It's a mock recital day. So I'll have about 4 people come in halfway through the class. And when they come in, they're sitting as an audience and they already have notes. They've already been prepped on what to do. And this is a small group of maybe 4 or 5 people. And they're looking for you to make eye contact with them. And they're marking how many times you looked at them throughout their speech. Okay. And then they give that feedback to me. And then we just say, thank you, goodbye. And I continue on with the class and I work on that feedback that was given from the audience. That's how we build.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So, what do you think is important that maybe we didn't cover? Is there something that we didn't cover that you think that would be beneficial to the audience to hear?
Yeah, one thing I think that's very important and what I live by is just your purpose, right? And I want people to think about, even as a real estate agent, if you're in a government agency, corporate industry, whatever industry it may be, maybe even be an entrepreneur, right? Think about the purpose and why you do what you do. When you think about the purpose and you think about why you do what you do, how do you feel about sharing this with millions of people? Because if you know the why, then you know that it's needed. You know that what you do is important. You know that people going on to a website and searching for themselves on how to find a house and I'm going to do this without, an agent because I think I can just figure it out on my own. If you know the importance of why you do what you do and how important it is for people, you have to be able to build the skill of public speaking. And the reason you have to do that, not only is it to boost your confidence for your why, but it's also to boost career advancement, personal advancement, social connections with other people, collaborations, boost sales. There was one time I was sitting in a gym and I talked to, one of the guys that was sitting there. We were just chatting away. And eventually I told him, I said, look, it sounds like in this conversation, you have a lot of money waiting for you on the table. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you just said several people at your job, including your boss, asked you to move up and you don't want to move up because you can't do a morning meeting for public speaking. This is why he didn't want to move up.
Mm,
He's like, I have the skills.
wow.
I love what I do. I've been doing it for 15 years now. And I'm like, really?
Wow.
He's like, yeah, but I just can't get past the morning meetings. I don't want to do a morning huddle.
Oh
I'm
gosh.
like,
You're leaving money
well,
on the
how many
table.
people can you contact? And they've been trying to get him to move up. So, I work with them and I gave him some coaching tips and things like that. And eventually I did see him later on. He was like, hey, you know what? I took the position. I boosted up
Oh,
the
that's great.
confidence. And that's what I mean by boosting up so that you can create more sales, so that you can create that personal development and advancement in your career. Knowing your
That's awesome.
why is important because
Yeah, so
your why
you
is going
go
to
in
help
there.
millions of
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you go in there believing what you have to say is important,
Mhm.
then you will, I guess, also take the nerves away. You're going in there with a purpose and you believe what you're saying, it
Yep.
becomes more believable to the audience as well. Right. So
Mhm.
no, that's a great tip. So tell me about UTAP today. How can people get in touch with you and what type of classes do you do? Personal group classes and what can people do to stay engaged with your brand?
Yeah, definitely. So you can find tons of information on the website at www.upliftedtalentandproductions.com, which is short UTAP today. So just go to utaptoday.com. That's UTAPTODAY.com. When you go there, you'll see tons of information on services provided, both for acting, for public speaking, for workshops, boot camps. I will be having a boot camp coming up in the summer, and it will be one for acting and it'll be one for public speaking. That'll probably be a 2-day boot
Great.
camp is what I'm shooting for. So that'll be coming up this summer, 2024. We normally run classes in the fall and in the spring, and then I do one-on-one sessions as needed, starting at any time. The one-on-one sessions normally start for 3 sessions at a time at $350.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that's the one that I took with you. I did
Yes.
the
Yep,
one-on-one
we did the
sessions.
3 sessions. Mhm. Yep, and look at where you
All
are
right,
now.
great. So guys, there you go. Yeah, look, I mean, clearly it worked. Guys, so UTAPTODAY. Follow her on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Go
Yes.
to the website, UTAPTODAY, to
Mhm.
find out more about the type of classes she does. I could guarantee you'll love it. And I think it was super important for me to be able to at least talk to a professional in the public speaking field to be able to get myself rolling. Now I am starting a podcast, so it's all talking now. So, uh, so no, I do give some credit to Allison here for the help there. Allison, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I always end off my podcast episodes saying the same thing: don't be a basic biscuit. Thanks for listening in. All right. See you later.
I love it. Okay.